What's up, everybody? It's Matthew Newman, aka Mr. Catch on Fire, and the I Just Want to Record podcast. Come kick back and enjoy conversations with folks about the complex and, yes, sometimes mundane intricacies of life, all meant to inspire you. Carla Banks, people should know who you are. Who are you?
Okay, so my name's Carla Banks. I am from Los Angeles, California. You know, I'm diehard Los Angeles, Inglewood, this area. I am a high school educator, also a fitness trainer, bootcamp coach, and more recently, within the past 2 years, I've started hosting events in the community, from homebuyers workshops to game days, vision board parties, girls' nights, and I'm just all about the community.
The plug in the community, y'all.
Yes.
Carla's modest. She ain't gonna tell you, but I've recently come to know that Carla is the plug in the community.
Yes, definitely.
So buyers workshop, I actually attended one here at the space. Was it last weekend? I don't know when it was, but it was recent and it was pretty dope. But talk about that event.
Okay, great. So yes, I hosted a home buyers workshop at the All In co-working space, which is here. I had about 10 to 15 people come out. I had real estate agents, lenders. I had current homeowners and investors, and also people that are interested in purchasing property in the community, learning more about home ownership and the importance of owning a home. So we had the workshop here. People would tell their stories, their investing stories, how they got started. You know, how pretty much buying homes now is very important, even though they say, hey, you know, just wait it out and it's not the best time to purchase property. But as one of the speakers, Aislinn, who spoke about her home ownership journey, she mentioned that right now is the time to purchase property.
Wow, that's going to dispel some myths.
Definitely.
To your point. So I know we talked about you being an educator. We talked about, or you already spoke about in your introduction about you're currently in school, etc. But walk people through your story, like all the way through the story, like from when you grew up, what was it like living here in Los Angeles? What specific area of Los Angeles did you grow up in? Just kind of take us back to that time up into the present moment.
Okay, so I am from Los Angeles, California. It was called South Central, you know, it's called South Central, but South Los Angeles. Born and raised out here, went to 95th Elementary, Bret Harte Middle School, Washington High School. I definitely was involved in a lot of community organizations in the community. So Girls Club of Los Angeles, which is a big part of my story. I got my first summer job there.
What was the job?
So pretty much I worked at the child care center, but okay. I pretty much worked in the office at the child care center. Okay. And then the executive director, who's Gloria Davis, she's still the executive director, very important person in my life and in the community. So I worked there for a number of years after school. I went to Washington for high school. I ran track. I was in student government. When I was younger, I did karate, basketball, drill team, various after-school programs and college prep programs throughout my years. When I went away to college, I went to UC Berkeley on a full academic scholarship. So pretty much I grew up in poverty. You know, my mom, she didn't have much. She wasn't good with finances. Everything that I had to learn on my own, or I had to learn through people in the community. So that's why I have this value and this emphasis on community, because the community is who helped me get to where I am today. You know, my education, the resources, my ability to connect and network, my happiness in a sense, you know, it's tied to my community. And, you know, I'm just very appreciative of the people that's in my life and that have guided me throughout my journey. And like I said, I wouldn't say I couldn't be here or even in the position that I'm in today, even the network and connections and just the love from my peers and people around me, if I didn't have my community. So after I graduated from UC Berkeley, I was a personal trainer for a number of years. I was a substitute teacher for a number of years. And then I realized I need to get into a salary job. I do understand, entrepreneurship, and that's where I'm always headed. And that's where I was always headed throughout time. But I also knew that I needed money coming in, constant money coming in. So I eventually went to Cal State Dominguez for their teaching credential program. And I became a full-time teacher. So I became a PE teacher. And then I also host boot camps in the community, fitness boot camps in the community. And like I was mentioning before, hosting just different workshops, whether it's educational workshops or social workshops for people to network, mix and mingle, but also, be around like-minded people. So that's my story. I'm from LA. I'm an LA girl. I love the city. I rep my city, the kids in the community, teens in the community, whoever it is, I'm down to, serve and be present and definitely give back to the people that have poured into me.
That's good. You mentioned the name of the young lady who was very instrumental, the executive director. Did she have any type of bearing, positive impact, etc., on the significance of your story growing up in poverty? Like, what was she like during that time that you were experiencing poverty? Was she a go-to, a sounding board?
Okay, so I got my first summer job. I want to say I was 13 years old, and she's originally from down south. So just think of that Southern, strong woman who's about her business, just pretty much just striving and doing amazing things, but also pouring into you like a mother.
Yeah.
So definitely she was like my mentor, my role model, someone who I could call on. Going back to my first years in college, she actually bought me a ticket to, I want to say it was to come back down to LA for a scholarship event, but she also connected me with a lot of scholarships. So when I was a senior in high school, I applied for a lot of scholarships, and she was fundamental in actually connecting me with different organizations and programs that I could apply for scholarships for. Mm-hmm. And even as far as like writing me recommendations, she was one of the figures that, hey, she wrote a recommendation. It could be last minute. She would write it, It was one of those things where she didn't only nurture me and give me resources, but she also, I could say, she taught me tough love. Because I do remember a time, I can't fully clearly remember it, but it was one of those things where she kind of like scolded me a bit. Yeah.
About what? Can you tell?
See, I'm trying to think, I think it was one of those things where it's kind of like professionalism, the things that you learn, how to talk, how to send an email, how to address people in a professional setting. Mm-hmm. When you're out with your friends, you address people a certain way. Maybe with family, you talk a certain way. But when it comes to professionalism and in the office, the way you answer the phone could even be an example.
Sure.
Yeah. So when I worked at the child care center, I also worked in the office. So at one point I was with the teens, I was with the children. And then at another point, I was behind the desk in the office. I was the first face you would see when you walk in. So just think a high school student, you need to address the people that are coming in, whether it's someone for business or whether it's a parent, you need to address them a certain way. And I do remember back then, in her, the kindest way possible, but also in a way of saying, hey, you messed up.
Yeah. Get it together.
Get it together. Yeah. So I remember that, and I really I appreciate her. She's my mentor. And that's another thing to do for anybody watching now, to get a mentor, get someone to talk to, get someone to bounce ideas off of. Yeah. It could be any age, because a mentor could be someone younger than you, older than you. It could be like a grandparent. It could be like an elder in the community, someone in the church. There's so many people that could impact your life. And at the same time, even though you think that you're getting all this information from them, you're teaching them also. So a lot of times it's always like this infinity or this ongoing, span of information, knowledge, and learning.
That's good. Two things I hear. One, I'll tell a story. Two, I'll kind of piggyback. The other day I walked into an office in Hawthorne. And of course, I won't say the organization's name, but walked in. And when I walked into the lobby, stepping off the elevator, made a left into the lobby, I was immediately greeted by the receptionist. And this was at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I was walking in by 7:52, 7:53 for this 8 o'clock meeting. but the receptionist was already there. The coffee was already made. And she says, "Hi, welcome." And I said, "Hi, I'm here for an 8 o'clock appointment with X person," right? And she says, "Oh, you must be Mr. Newman." And she immediately greeted me as Mr. Newman, knew what appointment was coming up, which I thought was incredibly impressive. As I'm getting escorted back to X person's office, they say, "Hi, Mr. X," who happens to be the CEO of this organization. "Here's Mr. Newman." And I'm like, this is pretty darn dope that from the very beginning of me walking in, I was greeted as Mr. Newman, escorted as Mr. Newman, and introduced as Mr. Newman. That entire culture was something like, dang, maybe I should implement something like that into my work environment. Although I think it'll spoil my current culture, but I really appreciated that. And to me, that's what this young lady, what was her name?
Gloria Davis.
Gloria Davis did for you.
Yes.
It's like she helped you to kind of hone in those skills of professionalism. The second thing that I'll share in response to that is that you made a point that was very clear that anybody watching or listening should take heed to is, yes, identifying a mentor. Number one is that mentor can be someone younger or older, but everything that you learned during that time was from that one person, which is interesting to me because we're here to talk today about this impact of or significance of community and its impact on certain communities. Why is community so important? But I want to dispel this for some people. A community doesn't have to be multiple people, hundreds, thousands of people. That community can be one. And I always say this, is that it's a quote by Tupac. And he says, "I'm not saying I'm going to change the world, but I'm going to spark the brain of the one who will."
Right.
And that quote is so relevant even to this conversation because Gloria Davis sparked your brain that is now creating this community.
Right.
That she may not ever be a part of. She may not ever see it, but she sparked your brain in order to create it. You know, there's a quote by Maverick Carter that talks or says this. Maverick Carter said, "I think in order to achieve real change, we as the Black community need to come up with real asks, and we have to determine, what do we actually want? We obviously want some social reform on police brutality and things like that. But we also need political changes. But it's more than voting. What are we as Black people asking of these politicians?" So Carla, I want to start this conversation about the significance of finding community in Black culture. And the question that I will ask you is, why is community so important in the Black community?
Okay, so you're asking me, why is community so important in the Black community? I would say it's very important because a lot of things take place and get pushed forward with support. So that keyword support. So if you have a support system, you can do more and go further. So let's think of an example. Let me think of an example of, let's say, putting on a community event, a big event in the community. We need businesses, we need sponsors, we need volunteers, we need resources, and it takes multiple people or multiple influences, multiple people signing or someone signing off to push things forward to make it happen. Usually it's not one main person that creates this huge event, or let's say a concert or a festival. There's a lot of hands that go into putting on something. So I think community and support is very important to push us forward as a Black community. So if we have, let's pretend that we're signing someone up for shifts to volunteer, or let's say everyone gives $15 towards a certain cause. Let's say we also pull in people that are talented in certain areas, whether let's say it's photography or it's speaking or is education. So an educator that comes out and speaks to the crowd. Everyone has a talent, a skill, or a job to do to impact that event. Like I
got a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Okay, I am guilty of oftentimes working solo. And I have a fraternity brother who told me this. He says, "Matthew, if you keep working alone, you're going to end up facing a fork in the road. And that fork in the road leads to isolation or destruction."
I believe it.
However, I often work alone because no one has my same work ethic.
Okay, I would like to say I would like to challenge that.
Okay.
In a way where you think you work alone because you haven't found that specific person?
I'm tired of looking.
You're tired. Okay.
I didn't work with a lot of folks, and now let me be more specific. I work with a lot of Black folks.
Okay.
When I first started my first business, which is my yard care company, I said I'm only going to recruit Black crews.
Okay.
And those Black crews were the ones who let me down. Those Black crews were the ones never showing up to service the job, to perform the work, service the job. Those Black crews were the ones who told me that someone's wife ran after them in bra and panties. Look, it got raw. And I'm like, how did that even happen? Right? They never showed up. I had a Black crew break a window, never reported it. The client reported it, and I never heard from that crew again.
Wow.
So, that's just one instance. Let's talk about community events. Let's talk about people not doing what they said they were going to do, not showing up on time. You say you want them to serve at the table for registration, and they end up leaving their table, and we missed $5, $10, $20, $30 that walked in the door because they weren't at the table.
Got it. So what I could say, this reminds me of what I've heard before, where it's like, you give people, you can't, after the first try, and I know you said multiple times they've let you down, but I think you have to give other people a chance. Also, make it clear what your expectations are, but also know that even as humans in all ethnic backgrounds, races, we all come with trauma and experiences that affect the way we perform.
Okay, walk the folks through this. You're going to be teaching me this, because how is trauma tied to me working a registration table?
Okay, so if you, let's say you didn't eat breakfast, right? In certain communities, if you don't have enough money and resources and let's say access to healthy foods or information, so that goes back to the education, to eat healthy, once you're at the event and at the registration, hey, maybe you may be hungry, or maybe your mind is thinking about some things that's going on at home. Maybe you have some family trouble. Maybe someone is in trouble, whether it's with the law or let's say maybe some people in the Black community may have issues with citizenship. There's various reasons why people could be going through it and their mind is not focused on the job at hand, whether it's that registration, getting people to come in, and then also going to, like, let's say when you greet people, right? So if you're at a job, at a front desk job, office job, you're always greeting people. You need to be upbeat. You need to show personality and presence. You need to be present in the moment. Hi, how are you doing? Can I take you back to this person? Or, you're pretty much directing. And if your mind is not there, your mind is wondering, you're not feeling whole, happy, and well, you can't really serve others. So it's kind of like that mindset of making sure you pour into yourself, making sure you're okay or level. You may not be feeling amazing, but you may not be at that bottom level where it's that low. So I think a lot of times in the Black community as a whole, we're dealing with a lot of trauma. And then also our trauma is not being handled with, whether it's therapy, working out, it's not being addressed. And it's also going back to our community therapy and addressing our traumas and sharing our traumas with the world, being that taboo, unspoken area. So it's just like, I think as a community, we're constantly dealing with that. I think we've done a better job more recently in the past few years to address our traumas and, talk about, hey, this is what's going on in my family and this is what's holding me back and harming me and causing me not to be present. But I do know that we have more, we have a long way to go to get to a point where, we are well as a community.
So I can agree with that. And appreciate you sharing that, because something that I'm thinking through now as you're speaking is that we as Black folks within our community are often required to show up with a smile, but not required to face the trauma in our daily lives.
Right. It's like push what you're dealing with aside and be present here. And in your head, I'm sure you're thinking, hey, I can't, it's not possible. So you fake it a little bit until it comes back. It brings itself back to the surface, which it has never left.
It's never left, but because you push it to the side in order to show up, because people were expecting you to show up with that smile. My wife has a friend who often deals with some roller coaster of emotions. And she often says, meaning my wife, often says that person is the one who will show up smiling like everything is fine. And then all of a sudden end up depressed, crying, etc., which may drive them towards some type of thoughts. Right. And I don't think I have to say what those thoughts are. I think it's self-explanatory.
Right.
But that you're right. Those are some areas that I have to be more sensitive to, because I'm clearly not.
Yeah. So I think a part of it is kind of like that emotional intelligence that a lot of people push to the side, but the world requires us to show up. And sometimes we don't have the capacity, the energy, the bandwidth to show up. And that could be in various areas. It could be work, it could be school, it could be family commitments, it could be parenting. There's times where every person needs to take a step back or even needs to assess the situation as if like, hey, do I have the capacity to take on what I'm up against at the moment? Can I step away? Can I have somebody watch the kids? Yeah. Can I take a mental health day at work or at school? Can I work from home? Can I change my community, or can I go to the co-working space or coffee shop? Can I take a break? Can I take a walk? There's different things that can be done, but you just kind of got to figure it out. You have to think it through, that you can't be present at a place or some situation all the time, 100%. You just can't. So that's something that as a people, especially a Black community, that we can work on. I
agree. And it's a question that was coming up was, what are we lacking in the community? And we had a conversation the other day after your homebuyers event, and it was essentially surrounding mixed race or dating outside of the race. There's a proper term for it. I can't think of
interracial
dating. Thank you. Dun, 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 dun. Interracial dating. And one area that we spoke about was therapy. You just spoke about it a few moments ago, is that we're often pushing things to the side and not properly addressing them. And I believe that that's something that we're lacking within the Black culture, which often causes us to not cooperate as a culture. Because each of us are not each of us, I don't want to say all people in the Black community, but a lot of us are facing said trauma that we haven't addressed. So do you suggest therapy?
Okay, so some years back, I would say maybe about 4 to 5 years is when I initially stepped in to accept therapy, signed up for therapy. So I would suggest therapy as an option. I won't say the talk therapy is the only option. Talk therapy is the one that I went for, where you go to someone, psychologist, someone that's licensed to talk over your issues. But I think therapy comes in various forms. Like I mentioned, it could be working out, it could be taking a walk, it could be doing breath work, yoga. There's so many ways to get therapy and to handle and work through different things that you're going through. And then also addressing different traumas that you faced, even as a child, when you would think that the situation has passed, but it's deeply inside of you.
Yeah.
It's still there. So I would definitely suggest therapy. And I would say there's different forms of therapy that you could go after or take advantage of, that it just doesn't have to be talk therapy or therapy where you see a psychologist.
And you said you recently accepted it.
Yeah, because I think, going back to even my background, it wasn't talked about. Therapy, talking to someone, it wasn't accepted. It wasn't something that my intermediate family did. If my extended family went to therapy, I don't remember them talking about it or bringing it to the table or, saying, hey, this is an option. But just going to college, getting more education, knowing that the services are available and they actually bring more awareness to the services. They say, hey, we have these services. You know, even when I was an undergrad, it was called the Tang Center. So at UC Berkeley, they had like the
Tang Center.
Yeah, it was the Tang Center. So it's like a medical office, but they also have all these other services and meetings and meetups and groups and wellness opportunities to take advantage of. So, you know, you're able to get like you're able to get your vaccines for travel and go to get your glasses if you needed it. But also you're able to talk to a healthcare professional or someone about things that you're dealing with, going through. Even as a person from the inner city going to like a predominantly white institution, that's some things that you had to like deal with and had to, you know, pretty much address and work through. You know, you're coming from a community that you may not have had all the best resources and educational options. But then when you go into a university where there's mostly white people, they were able to go to summer camps that were like engineering camps and all these different resources and have their parents pay for almost every single thing, or even having a plug or connect to plug them into certain jobs or internships without even applying. It was something that you had to, you know, talk to someone about. You know, either you make your situation better, right, with like the resources you have, but also knowing that you may have some things up against you that you have to like work through and kind of, I guess, achieve despite what you were given.
Yeah. There are a lot of things that our parents were up against.
Right.
Lots of things. One thing, for example, my father, who was born in 1951, he experienced civil rights, around like 12, 13 years old, 14, 15 years old. And so there were some big voices around that time, big voices. And I often think about like, who are those voices in our time? Like when you think about civil rights in the House, that was such a historic, monumental, negative time, sometimes positive because of what, yes, the outcomes were at times, but it was a gut-wrenching time for most.
Right.
But you think of big voices. You think about Martin Luther King Jr., you think about Thurgood Marshall, Medgar Evans, Mary White Ovington. These are some very big names during a big time. This is a big time for us. We are coming out of a pandemic, or sometimes still experiencing this pandemic. People are experiencing anxiety, like myself. We're embracing new opportunities for entrepreneurship, etc. So this community, who are those big voices that you see during this time that are really preaching and voicing the significance of having communities, being surrounded by a community to contribute to our evolution? Who are those big voices?
Okay, so in who I would name specifically, I would say these big voices may not seem big to the masses, but they're big voices in the community that I'm viewing, seeing, and experiencing. So just a few names. So Ty, so she's actually in like media entertainment. She's in this group called Sisters of LA. Sisters of LA, actually. So it's SISTAS of LA. So it's a community where Black women post about different educational events, post about social events, jobs, and any resource you need, it's posted in that group. And one of the members, her name is Ty. She's really big in the community. She's well connected, like myself. You know, she knows what's going on. They also have someone else that's on Instagram. So for our community, Instagram has been very fundamental in getting the information and the resources out there. So even when it comes down to like the latest scholarships, housing, something that we're facing in our community that's causing issues, like, hey, there's different people that are doing the work to make sure that we're aware. So another person, her name is Slauson Girl. I'm not sure if you've heard of her.
Yes.
So yeah, I think she's doing the work. You know?
She just received, was it a proclamation?
Yes, for the city, correct?
From I don't know if it's from the city of LA or from the county of LA, but it was in Sacramento.
Right. So it's like she's doing the work. So there's people that they may not be these big names, but they are doing the work in the community. Also, we have her name is Roxy. She posts about resources in the community. So whether, like I was mentioning before, whether you need housing, whether you need a job, whether you need some scholarships, grants, she's posting it on Instagram. And also they have this thing where they have networking events. So another thing that's, really big for our community is getting the word out. So exposure and awareness, but also using social media platforms so that the masses can get the information. There's other people and groups, Urban League. So Urban League is a huge one, nationally. Urban League is just doing their thing. Los Angeles Urban League is doing their thing. So just the leaders in that organization, getting the word out, promoting and pushing professional development, volunteerism, civic engagement, all these groups that are actually doing the work and getting members to come in, but also educating them. So that's huge in the Black community. So if you bring education and awareness, I don't want to say we can't be stopped, but honestly, we can't as a people. We're a strong group of people that are hardworking, and despite all the stuff that we've been through, we constantly push forward. And even if we have like a negative rap or a bad name, we still prevail because we're just amazing.
Yeah, that's no doubt. And if we're in front of a live audience, I would say put your hands together, clap for that. Right. Because we are such a unique group, such a unique group that has always done very, very, very powerful things. And you mentioned Roxy, Ty, Slauson Girl, all of these folks who are unsung heroes. Some of them are now sung heroes, if you will, because they're being recognized. And to me, that is the beautiful part of the entrepreneur community, because there are so many good people doing great things that we always have, and more than likely always will, ascribe the success of efforts to money. That people have to have a lot of money to have big names or big followings in order to have a big name. There are so many people who are flying under the radar,
right?
Who don't have significant followers, but they're doing amazing work,
right?
That deserve a broader stage. Community. So how do we support the people who don't have big followings? How do we support them in order to get their efforts? One of my lady best friends has an organization called House of Artists Foundation. She does camps in, I think, 5 or 6 different states at this point, and Canada, for artists with autism. It's called Camp Artism.
Nice.
But yet she has yet to receive that big funding opportunity, where to me, that's an unsung hero.
Right.
Doing things for that marginalized community of those who are facing autism or experiencing autism. How do we support folks like that? How do we support the unsung, the folks flying under the radar, so that they can get their name on broader stages?
Okay, so I can give you a specific example. Going back to what we spoke about some time ago, we talked about grants, right? Mm-hmm. So we know grants are out there, and not everyone is applying to these grants and getting the funding. So one way is there could be someone in your circle, or reach out to someone to help you apply for these grants. Sometimes, you want to do it and you may not have the experience or know how to check off every box or meet the qualifications for certain grants, but talk to someone that can make sure that everything is correct. So that way, when you apply, you are not disqualified for those grants. So that's one way. Another way is supporting these organizations. It could be monetarily, it could be through your time, and it could be also through plugging resources. So going back to plugging, everybody knows somebody that does something. Everybody has a connect towards some scholarship or some person like, hey, but also making sure that when you have these connections and they're sharing these options with you, that you go for them and you use them. So this goes back to when you have a mentor and they're suggesting things to you to do. and you're taking in this information, but you're never using it.
Oh.
So that's a thing. It's like you're asking for help or you're asking for people to pour into you, but you're not using and applying what they're telling you. So it's just like being able to use and apply what's given to you. So that's another way to another way that we can, make sure that these people that are unsung get the praise and actually get the help and the assistance that they need to continue giving back. Also like going back to giving your time, doesn't have to be much, because we all know as a community, we love to volunteer.
Yep.
But there should be something that pours back into you, and it will give some time, tap into some resources, share some of the knowledge and connects that you have to keep things flowing. Give a little bit of money, and if it's not money, there's other things you can do to assist, to help. You may be good at like graphic design or creating websites or something. Sometimes for those things, it costs a good amount to get things going. And maybe you may have a service that you can kind of give. You can trade. Yep. I know with the Black community, we can be really, really good at trading services. Yeah. So like we can just keep that going and flowing, make sure you outline, what needs to be done and be clear and communicate. Yep. So we can kind of keep things going. But definitely those are some ways. So making sure to support, making sure to give in different ways, whether it's money or time, making sure to connect people. It may not be you that does the work, but you could connect someone.
Yeah.
So all those things, put all those together and you can continue progressing and, assisting those people that are doing the work. They can't do it by themselves.
No. Before we move into the close of this conversation, which has been so good, I want to play a little trivia with you.
Okay.
Do you know what an ask hole is?
I can assume, but I do not know.
Well, what is your assumption?
It sounds like you're asking something into a deep hole.
No, just replace the K for an S.
Okay.
An ask hole. So here's what an ask hole is.
That's a curse word. Okay.
Correct. Okay. However, the answer to an ask hole, or the definition, is somebody who asks for advice but never does anything with it. I saw that somebody posted it. I reposted it on Instagram, but it was so true. So I was having a conversation with somebody, and I think I may have given this example on another podcast. Somebody was asking me about my staffing agency, what I do, and how do I get clients, blah, 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 blah. And I said, my biggest thing is for you to take one of the things I said today and apply it today, immediately. Like, take it and go try it and see if you have some success. And I've yet to hear from that person. Wow. Right? Because I always ask people, when I suggest that they do something, I ask them to follow up. I give them my number, oftentimes my direct or personal number, and I say, text me when you've done this. Have yet to hear from them. That was in October, November.
So they're probably dealing with some, I don't want to say imposter syndrome or something, or, they're so used to asking. Because I think, too, that's a skill that they teach you. They teach you to ask for help and ask for guidance. But that follow through, that checking in, that, tracking your progress, that's not really like a skill that's always emphasized as important. Like, hey, you got to follow through. You have to write things down. You may have to fail and you have to come back and
say
try
that, write things down. People, oh my God, never mind.
Yeah. So that's something that, I do know our community, we do say, be consistent.
Yeah.
We always say we'll push to keep trying, but sometimes it's like that failing that gets a lot of people. Yeah. When you fail, it doesn't feel so great, but we have to get into that mindset of, if you fail, it's not really a complete no.
Yeah.
It gives you the opportunity to try again.
For sure. Carla, as we close, I want to ask you this question: is what has been your greatest contribution to society?
And okay, so I think my greatest contribution to society is being a connector of resources. The same resources or similar resources that have been poured into me, I'm able to share with others. I'm able to connect people with different types of people, businesses, communities, and vendors. I'll usually always have an answer to how to solve things. So I'm pretty good at solving. But definitely, I think that as far as my community and contribution, I have a voice and knowledge that I can share and connect people with, that if you need help with something, it's like, hey, this person is good with this, or let me call up this person, or let me tie you guys together here, or, you know, or they're going to be at this event, you should show up, you know. It's just all these ways or tips and tricks on how to succeed or how to, you know, get the job done, that I'm really good at figuring things out and connecting resources.
What's the immediate next step? How do people find you? But what do you want people watching, listening, immediately wants that, man, that girl Carla was so great. That young lady Carla was so great. What is the thing that you want them to do? What's their immediate next step? Then, of course, how do they find you? Social media, websites, etc.
Okay, so my immediate next steps would be for people to attend the events that I'll be hosting at the All In Co-working Space. They're located in Inglewood.
Yeah, I didn't pay her to say that.
Plug. So honestly, I'm going to be hosting events here, whether they're educational events or social events. And the reason why I'm really like driving this home to you guys is because there's going to be so many resources and opportunities and networking connections that are going to be taking place that if you're not in the room, you are missing out. And this is a perfect opportunity for you to come out and experience and grow and expand with people that are like you and that are doing things that they want to advance and, you know, and grow. So definitely come out to the All In Co-working Space and attend an event, whether, like I said, it's a home buyers workshop. Maybe there may be a game day. We may have like some trivia games. There's different things that we're going to be doing. I know that we have content creation things going on. If you come out to these events, you're going to grow, learn, and connect with people that are doing the work. And you have no choice but to like fall in and fall forward with people that are like you.
So dope.
Yeah. And then how you can connect with me, I'm on Instagram at cbanks fitness. I'm also a fitness trainer, bootcamp coach. So I'm definitely going to be pushing fitness, health, and wellness, but also constantly pushing advancement for the Black community.
Love it. Carla, thank you so much. This was so dope. Finding community in Black culture was so rich. Again, I appreciate you, everything that you do, and most importantly today for being a guest on the I Just Want to Record podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the I Just Want to Record podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so that we can inspire more people just like you. Until next time, I'm Matthew Newman, aka Mr. Catch on Fire, signing off.